Now you might see in your hosting package, you might see the older interface like this one, or you might see the newer interface like this one. And the options are usually the same. It just looks a bit different. So firstly, you need to choose where within your hosting account to install WordPress. You've got 3 basic options. Number 1, on the main domain that you use to sign up for your hosting account. Let's just call that one maindomain.com, just for reference. Now that's the default, but actually that's not the option we'll be using for the starter site. The second option is as an additional add-on domain that you added to your account. And that's if your hosting package allows you to run multiple websites from one single account. So for these purposes, let's just refer to that as addondomain.com, just as an example. So that would have to be a domain that you own, that you've pointed towards your hosting package. So here is where you'd add any other domains or websites to your account. The third option to install WordPress is on a subdomain. Now, a subdomain is basically where you piggyback on either the main domain that you own or one of your add-ons without you having to buy a whole new domain name. Subdomains look like something.maindomain.com, and you can put whatever you like before the first dot. It's up to you. Now, subdomains are actually just a completely separate website, and this in cPanel is where you'd add subdomains to your hosting package. So in this particular lesson, we're installing WordPress to house our starter site. I would personally use a subdomain for this, option 3. I'll presume you don't want to have to buy a whole new domain name just to house your starter site, which would require either option 1 or 2. The first job, we need to create the actual subdomain. So firstly, in cPanel, click Subdomains. In the first field here, you type the subdomain that you want. So in this case, I'll type starter. And it's just the bit before the dot. So if it's starter.maindomain.com, it's just starter. Choose in this list the main domain that you want this to be a subdomain of. Then in document root, you're just choosing a folder on the server that this site will live in. cPanel tries to be helpful here, but just overwrite anything that it suggests and type public_html/starter. And the last bit, the starter bit, is just the name of the folder. You can call that folder whatever you like, but it makes sense, I think, to give it the same name of the subdomain itself. So, in this case, starter. So then hit create. And that's the subdomain created. And we can now just go back to our cPanel control panel. And what this means now is that we can install a WordPress website on starter.maindomain.com or whatever domain you have. Actually, it sometimes takes about 30 minutes to an hour for the subdomain to actually become active. So if you visit your subdomain in a browser and you get an error, just be patient. Now we have the subdomain, but it's a totally blank website at this stage. But at least now we have something to install WordPress on. Let's get on with installing WordPress now. Now, most hosting companies provide a means of installing WordPress really easily, typically using a built-in app called Softaculous, which comes pre-installed in cPanel. Some hosts use alternatives like Installatron or Fantastico, but the idea is basically the same. So to get started, in your cPanel homepage, click Softaculous. Our different cPanels will look a little bit different, but whatever it looks like, you want to click Install. Sometimes you've got to hover and see it. So firstly, choose a protocol. This is basically is telling the installer whether your new site is going to be on HTTP or HTTPS, which is secure, and then either www or no wwws. Now, what you choose and why can get a bit complicated, and just in this lesson I don't want to end up down a rabbit hole. So let's assume we don't have an SSL certificate for starter.maindomain.com, and we don't want it to be www.starter.maindomain.com. We don't want to add yet another bit before it, so we're going to choose this one without the www. So I'll just choose HTTP. Then choose a domain that you want to install WordPress on. You'll see a list in the drop-down of all the domains, add-on domains, and subdomains you've got in your account. In directory is just asking which folder you want to install WordPress in. Now directory is just another name for folder. Now notice here it says the directory that you choose is relative to your domain. So we actually want this field to be blank. So we want to install WordPress in the top level folder of our starter.maindomain.com site. We don't want to install WordPress in a folder inside that site. We don't want to have to go to a /WP or something to get to it. So if in doubt, just leave that blank. Site settings are just a WordPress site name and description. So let's have something imaginative like starter site and my starter site. Oh, we can always change those in WordPress settings later. Here you create your admin username and password. You'll log into WordPress with these, so just keep a careful note of those. Make the password hard to guess, please. And put your email address here, and that will be your admin email address in WordPress. And you can later change all of these things in your WordPress settings. Then choose your language. Some hosts do offer to install a limit login attempts plugin, which is a great security plugin, but later we'll be installing a much better one. So let's just leave that unticked. You can ignore advanced options. And don't bother choosing a theme to install as well. And then you'd simply click install. And that's really it. Very easy. You could then visit your site at the domain you install WordPress on, like starter.maindomain.com or whatever it was. And you visit the WordPress admin panel by adding /WP-admin to the end of the URL, like this.